My name is Michael Turner. I'm 52 years old, and the doctor looked straight at me and said I had only a few hours to live. He didn't whisper it. He didn't soften it. He said it like a fact written in ink, like a deadline that could not be moved. I was lying in a hospital bed in the United States, tubes in my arms, machines counting seconds I could almost hear ticking. The room went quiet after that sentence, the kind of quiet that presses on your chest. Then I heard something I will never forget. My wife laughed. Not nervous laughter, not shock. A short, clean laugh, like someone who just heard good news. She was 15 years younger than me, standing near the foot of the bed, arms crossed, eyes dry. She didn't touch my hand. She didn't ask the doctor a single question. She just smiled and said, "Well, I guess that's that." In that moment, I understood something important. I was not surrounded by love. I was surrounded by people waiting for me to disappear. I stayed silent, but inside something snapped into place. I have spent my entire career as a corporate attorney, working on mergers, acquisitions, hostile takeovers. I am trained to read rooms, to watch faces, to notice who relaxes when bad news is delivered. When the doctor left, my wife took out her phone. She didn't call family. She didn't call friends. She typed fast, her fingers moving with confidence. I caught a glimpse of the screen. Names I recognized, a financial advisor, a man I had warned her about months earlier. She looked relieved, almost light. Then she looked at me and said, "Try to rest. There's nothing to worry about now." That sentence was not meant to comfort me. It was meant to close the door. I asked for water. She sighed like I was inconveniencing her. When she handed me the cup, her hand never touched mine. I noticed how quickly she stepped back, like contact with me no longer mattered. A nurse came in, adjusted a monitor, and left. As soon as we were alone again, my wife leaned closer and lowered her voice. She said, "You should sign the papers when they bring them. It will make everything easier." I asked her what papers. She told me not to stress myself, that everything was already prepared. That word stayed with me. Prepared. Not discussed. Not reviewed. Prepared. I asked where the documents were. She smiled again and said, "Don't worry, Michael, I've taken care of it." At that point, I knew I was not just sick. I was at risk. People assume danger looks loud, yelling, threats, but real danger often arrives quietly, with folders and signatures. I thought about the timing. I thought about the sudden medical emergency, the rushed hospital transfer, the way she had insisted on handling communication. I thought about the power of attorney she had asked me to sign weeks earlier, framed as a formality. I remembered how she rushed me through it, how she said it was just in case. I stayed calm. I let my breathing stay slow. Panic would not help me. Observation would. She left the room to take a call. The moment she was gone, I reached for the call button and asked the nurse to note that no documents were to be signed without my direct approval and legal counsel present. The nurse hesitated, then nodded. I asked for my personal phone. It took time, but eventually it was brought to me. I checked my email. There it was, a notification about a document request submitted in my name earlier that morning. I had not authorized it. My hands felt weak, but my mind was sharp. Someone believed I would be gone before sunrise. When my wife returned, her tone had changed. She asked if I had called anyone. I said no. That was not true, but I did not correct her. She told me everything was under control and that I should save my strength. She sat down finally, but only because she wanted something. She mentioned assets, accounts. She spoke as if I was already a memory. I looked at her and realized she had stopped seeing me as a person. I was a process to be completed, a signature to be secured, a problem about to resolve itself. I closed my eyes, not because I was tired, but because I needed her to believe I was fading. Inside, I was alert. I was connecting dots, altered timelines, missing approvals, people moving too fast. They wanted speed because speed hides mistakes. They wanted me quiet because silence removes resistance. I stayed silent, but inside I was already planning. They thought I had hours. I knew I had minutes that mattered. I kept my eyes closed longer than necessary, letting my breathing slow just enough to look fragile. In my line of work, people reveal themselves when they think you are no longer a factor. My wife sat there scrolling through her phone, her knee bouncing with impatience. She checked the clock twice in less than a minute. That told me everything. She was not waiting for me to recover. She was waiting for time to do its job. When I finally opened my eyes, she straightened her posture and asked if I needed anything. Her voice sounded polite, rehearsed. I told her I was cold. She didn't move to adjust the blanket. She called a nurse instead, as if even small acts of care were now outsourced. While the nurse was there, I watched my wife closely. She asked questions that had nothing to do with my comfort and everything to do with timing. How long until the next update? Whether visiting hours were flexible, whether certain forms could be handled remotely. The nurse answered carefully, but I could sense the shift. Professionals know when something feels off. After the nurse left, my wife leaned in again and said the doctors might bring documents soon. She suggested I sign quickly so there would be no complications later. I asked her to explain what complications she meant. She paused for half a second too long. Then she said legal ones. That pause was enough. I told her I needed rest. She looked relieved and said she would step out to make a call. As soon as the door closed, I used my phone again. I contacted my longtime legal partner, Daniel Brooks, a man who had handled deals with me for over a decade. I kept the message short and factual. Medical emergency, possible fraud, power of attorney misuse, need immediate intervention. He replied faster than I expected. He said not to sign anything and that he was already checking public filings. That confirmation grounded me. I was not imagining this. There was movement happening around me. Minutes later, a hospital administrator entered with a tablet. He introduced himself and said there were documents requiring my acknowledgement. My wife followed him in, standing just behind his shoulder. She smiled like this was a routine errand. I asked the administrator to read the documents out loud. He hesitated and looked at my wife. That hesitation was another red flag. I told him firmly that I would not sign or acknowledge anything without my attorney present. My wife's smile tightened. She said I was confused and under stress. She suggested I was not thinking clearly. That was the moment she made her mistake. I looked directly at the administrator and said my name, my age, my profession, and the current date without hesitation. I explained that I was fully aware of my rights and that any attempt to bypass them would be documented. The administrator apologized and stepped back, saying he would return later. When he left, my wife exploded in a whisper. She accused me of being difficult. She said I was wasting time. She said everything would fall apart if I didn't cooperate. I asked her what exactly would fall apart. She had no answer ready, just anger. She left again, this time clearly upset. I knew she was calling someone. I knew pressure would increase. I also knew time was not as short as they wanted me to believe. Another doctor came in later, a different one. His tone was more measured. He said my condition was serious but stabilized. He did not repeat the phrase about hours to live. That mattered. I asked him directly if I was dying that night. He said no. That word changed everything. The urgency they had manufactured no longer held. When my wife returned, I told her what the doctor had said. She froze. Just for a second, her face betrayed her. Then she recovered and said, "Doctors change opinions all the time." I told her that may be true, but legal documents do not. I told her I would not sign anything until I was discharged or my attorney arrived. She stared at me like I had taken something from her. In a way, I had. I had taken certainty away. Over the next few hours, small things began to surface. A nurse asked me to confirm whether a visitor had authority to make decisions on my behalf. I said no. A billing clerk asked me to review an account change. I declined. Each time, my wife grew quieter. Her confidence drained as obstacles replaced shortcuts. Daniel arrived late that night. When he walked into the room, my wife stood up immediately and said she needed air. She didn't look at him. That told me she knew exactly who he was. Daniel reviewed everything quickly. He confirmed altered submission times, premature notifications, and a power of attorney that had been activated without proper medical confirmation. He told me this was not just unethical, it was illegal. Hearing that did not make me angry. It made me calm. Calm is dangerous for people who rely on chaos. Daniel said he would handle it and stepped out to make calls. My wife did not return. I spent that night alone, listening to machines and thinking clearly for the first time since the diagnosis. I thought about how easily trust can be weaponized, how illness makes people underestimate you. I thought about how my silence had been mistaken for weakness. By morning, the room felt different. Staff addressed me directly. Decisions came back to me. My wife arrived briefly, distant and cautious. She said very little. She no longer talked about documents. I did not confront her. I did not accuse her. I didn't need to. The situation was already shifting. Systems were correcting themselves. Paper trails were being followed. She had rushed because she believed I was out of time. She had been wrong. I was still here. And now, so was the truth. By midday, the hospital room felt less like a waiting area for death and more like a place where control had quietly returned to its owner. Doctors came and went, explaining treatment plans instead of timelines. Nurses spoke to me, not around me. Every small shift confirmed what I already knew. The crisis had been exaggerated, possibly manipulated, to create urgency where patience would have ruined the plan. My body was weak, but my position was no longer vulnerable. That difference mattered. Daniel returned in the afternoon with a folder thicker than anything my wife had tried to push across a screen. He spoke in a low voice, careful not to draw attention. He told me there were emails, call logs, and document requests submitted under my credentials from devices that were not mine. He said there was evidence of coordination, not panic. People had lined things up in advance, assuming the medical event would be the final trigger. I listened without interruption. I had learned long ago that the most useful reactions are quiet ones. My wife did not come back that afternoon. Instead, I received a message from her saying she needed space and that the situation was overwhelming. I did not reply. Space was exactly what I needed too, but for different reasons. Daniel advised me to limit communication and let formal channels handle everything. He also told me something else that confirmed my instincts. The financial advisor she had been speaking to had already attempted to move assets into a holding structure that would have been irreversible if I had passed. The attempt had failed because of a missing authorization. My authorization. That night, I slept for the first time without pretending. When I woke up, I felt sore, exhausted, but clear. The doctor explained that my condition would require treatment and monitoring, but it was not immediately fatal. I asked him to document that assessment clearly. He did. Documentation matters. Facts matter. Stories only work when no one checks the records. The following day, a social worker visited and asked about my support system. I said I had legal counsel and close friends. I did not mention my wife. The omission felt natural. Later that afternoon, she finally returned. She stood near the door, not the bed. She asked how I was feeling. I said stable. She nodded and said that was good. There was no warmth in her voice, only calculation. She asked if Daniel was still involved. I said yes. Her jaw tightened. She tried a different approach then. She said we had both been under stress. She said misunderstandings happen during medical emergencies. She said we should focus on moving forward. I listened, without responding. When she finished, I told her calmly that all decisions would now go through my attorney, and that I would be reviewing everything once I was discharged. I did not accuse her. I did not raise my voice. I simply stated a boundary. She looked at me as if she was seeing a stranger. In a way, she was. Within days, the situation outside the hospital escalated. Accounts were frozen pending review. The financial advisor cut contact. Messages went unanswered. Daniel told me investigators were asking questions. He also told me that my wife had retained separate counsel. That detail said more than any argument could. People do not seek protection unless they feel exposed. I was discharged a week later. Walking out of the hospital felt heavier than walking in, not physically, but mentally. I was not leaving behind an illness alone. I was leaving behind an illusion. At home, I noticed things immediately. Drawers that had been searched, files slightly out of order, a sense that decisions had been made without me. I did not comment. I documented, quietly. The confrontation, when it finally happened, was brief. My wife asked what I intended to do. I told her I intended to protect myself and let the process unfold. She asked if I was trying to punish her. I said no. I said consequences are not punishment. They are outcomes. That was the last serious conversation we had. After that, communication went through attorneys. Months later, the case resolved. Not loudly, not dramatically. Exactly how justice usually arrives when it is thorough. Agreements were voided. Assets were restored. Certain individuals were barred from practice. Others faced charges. My marriage ended, but it ended cleanly, with records instead of rumors. I did not feel victory. I felt closure. Looking back, I understand why they miscalculated. They thought illness erased experience. They thought age made me slow. They thought silence meant surrender. They were wrong on all counts. I did not survive because I fought harder. I survived because I paid attention. I asked for time when others demanded speed. I insisted on clarity when others pushed confusion. If there is one thing this taught me, it is that the most dangerous moment is when people believe you are finished. That is when they reveal their plans. And if you are still breathing, still thinking, still watching, that revelation can change everything. I was told I had only a few hours to live. They built their future on that sentence. I built mine on what I knew instead. After everything was formally closed, life did not return to what it had been before. It reorganized itself. I noticed that immediately. Mornings were quieter. Decisions were slower and more deliberate. I no longer felt the pressure to explain myself to anyone who had not earned clarity. Recovery was not just physical, it was structural. I rebuilt routines the same way I had rebuilt companies after messy acquisitions, by identifying what was broken, what was unnecessary, and what could not be trusted anymore. The legal outcome stayed mostly out of public view, exactly as I preferred. No headlines, no dramatic courtroom scenes, just filings, rulings, and confirmations. Daniel told me that was the best kind of resolution. People who act in shadows fear light, but they fear records even more. Every step my wife and her collaborators had rushed was now being examined slowly. Speed had been their weapon. Patience became mine. Friends who had stayed distant during my marriage reached out again. Some admitted they had been uncomfortable with how controlled my life had become. Others said they sensed something was off, but did not know how to say it. I did not hold that against them. Manipulation rarely looks violent from the outside. It looks organized. It looks efficient. It looks like someone else handling things for you. I had allowed that because it felt easier. That was my mistake. I focused on my health with the same seriousness I had once reserved for closing deals. Treatment was demanding, but manageable. Each appointment reminded me that the narrative I had been handed in that hospital room was false. I was not living on borrowed minutes. I was living on reclaimed time. That distinction mattered. It changed how I approached everything else. One afternoon, months later, I ran into my former wife by chance. We stood several feet apart. She looked thinner, more guarded. She asked how I was doing. I told her the truth. I said I was well. She nodded and said she was busy. I wished her well and left. There was nothing left to say. Closure does not always come with apologies. Sometimes it comes with distance that finally feels appropriate. What stayed with me most was not the betrayal itself, but how close it came to succeeding. If I had signed, if I had stayed silent a little longer, if I had trusted the urgency instead of questioning it. Those thoughts did not scare me. They sharpened me. They reminded me that awareness is not pessimism. It is protection. I returned to work gradually, choosing projects carefully. I declined anything that relied on speed over substance. Colleagues noticed the change. Some respected it, some didn't. That was fine. I had learned that approval is not a requirement for survival. Clarity is. Sometimes I think back to that first moment. The doctor's voice, the laugh that followed, the certainty on her face. That was the moment everything was revealed. Not because she laughed, but because she believed the story without verifying it. She built her future on an assumption. I rebuilt mine on evidence. I share this now for one reason. Not for sympathy, not for drama, but because moments like that do happen, quietly, in rooms where people think you are too weak to notice. If you are ever told your time is almost gone, do not rush to accept what others place in front of you. Ask questions. Slow things down. Pay attention to who benefits from your silence. I was nearly erased by paperwork and confidence. I survived by insisting on process and facts. Justice did not arrive with noise. It arrived with accuracy. And when it did not need my anger. It only needed the truth. Recovery taught me discipline in a new way. Not the discipline of endurance, but the discipline of boundaries. I became comfortable saying no without explaining myself. I became comfortable slowing conversations down when others pushed for speed. I understood that anyone who rushes you during a crisis is not acting in your interest. Time is neutral. People are not. There was no moment of celebration when everything settled. No sense of triumph. Just a quiet understanding that I had stepped back into my own life. The silence that followed was clean, not empty. It allowed me to hear my own thoughts again, without interference, without someone translating reality for me. That silence was earned. I stopped assuming good intentions where verification was required. That did not make me cynical. It made me precise. Precision keeps you alive in situations where emotion can be exploited. I had seen how quickly sympathy could be weaponized, how easily concern could mask strategy. Once you see that, you never fully unsee it. People sometimes ask me if I regret the marriage. I don't answer that directly. Regret implies wasted time. I don't see it that way. I see it as information acquired at a high cost. Information that now protects me. Information that sharpens my judgment. Some lessons arrive late, but they still arrive on time if you survive them. What I know now is simple. When people believe you are finished, they show you exactly who they are. They stop performing. They stop pretending. They move too fast. They talk too much. They assume silence means consent. That assumption is their weakness. Silence can also mean observation. It can mean preparation. It can mean restraint. I was told I had only a few hours to live. That sentence was meant to end my role in my own story. It failed, not because I argued against it, but because I refused to let it rush me. I asked for clarity. I asked for records. I asked for time. And time, once given, exposed everything that had been hidden behind urgency. If there is a conclusion to all this, it is not dramatic. It is practical. Protect your voice, especially when you are vulnerable. Keep your authority close. Never sign under pressure. Never confuse calm with surrender. And never assume that kindness will be returned simply because you offer it freely. I am still here. Not because I was lucky, but because I stayed alert when others assumed I was done. That awareness saved me, and it continues to guide every decision I make now, long after the machines were unplugged and the doors finally opened.